Everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day, Saturday, January the 27th, race number 13 at Gulfstream Park, a star-studded card and an excellent betting race. It's the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup. $3 million is the purse. We're going a mile and an eighth. We have a full field with one also eligible, and we're headed by our morning line favorite, the number 7, National Treasure. Last year's Preakness winner makes his 4-year-old debut after an excellent runner-up effort behind Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Ran really well the last time we saw him, Dan, with the aggressive ride that he hadn't been getting in his prior couple of races. They went back to aggressive tactics at the Breeders' Cup last time. This horse ran a pretty big race there and took a tough beat at the end. Do they look for the lead again here?
That is an excellent question as we take a look at entrants 9 through 13. These horses don't have a ton of speed. Skippy Longstocking perhaps a little bit from Grand Aspen, but throwing up the Timeform US pace projector makes it a bit dubious as to whether National Treasure is fast enough to get to the front. We're expecting a fast pace. Hoist the Gold just went gate to wire in a sloppy edition of the Cigar Mile. First Mission is tactical. Even with all these horses in front of National Treasure, I have a feeling he's 1-2 going into the first turn.
Yeah, if he wants the lead, he'll get it. I know that Hoist the Gold, they got aggressive with him in the Cigar Mile last time, and it was a really clever ride, and he took advantage. This horse, he's faster than First Mission. He's faster than Grand Aspen. He's even faster than Skippy Longstocking, although that horse has a tough outside post, so maybe they're on a dead scent here. But if this horse wants the lead, he'll be on it.
If the pace is electric, keep an eye on the number 3, Dynamic One. Take a look at that LP flag over his blue chiclet. That indicates he has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. If the pace falls apart, he'll be running late. Nimitz Class is the number 1. Hit the board in all 9 starts in 2023. Privately purchased since his most recent start, now with a very good trainer in George Weaver. I think he had some excuses last time out at Parks, Mike. It was a slow-paced race. They rated him. They ran 1-2 all the way around the track, maybe up against it from a pace standpoint. But that being said, this is a big step up in class.
Yeah, it is. They, more than anything else, they really managed this horse really well throughout his career, but he also almost showed up every time without fail, Dan, in 3 triple-digit buyers last year. He's got a great post here with a short run into the first turn. He's got great tactical speed. I don't love him in this race, but he's got one in him that will put him there at the wire, and he's supposed to get a really good trip in this race.
The number 2, O'Connor, is a 7-year-old, and you can make the argument that O'Connor is in the best form he's been in since coming to North America. Winner of the Grade 2 Fayette last fall at Keeneland. He won at Gulfstream Park earlier this meet in the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday, one of the local preps for the Pegasus World Cup. Grand Aspen, who's in this race, is on the lead. O'Connor got the run of the rail, and O'Connor just grinds him down to win.
He probably is in the best form of his career right now. Listen, he runs fine in here and the race comes back fast. I personally am not interested in betting him off of that performance where he got a perfect trip up the inside and won. I also didn't feel like he ran great in the Fayette two-back, although that was a pretty good performance. I'd still kind of rather have Illman out of that race. This horse is a contender to be sure, and I'm willing to be 100% wrong about him, but I don't like him at all in this race.
He's a grinding sort, though, that I think will appreciate a little bit extra distance, and he should get a good setup, and he does like Gulfstream, so there are things to like about O'Connor, but the point's well taken that he hasn't shown a lot of pizzazz in his last few races. I'm not even sure he's the best closer in this race, because if Dynamic One is still the same horse that he was back as a 3-year-old, maybe he's the best closer in here. This horse ran an excellent second in the Wood Memorial. He won the Curlin, and he was a pretty good 4-year-old, winning the Suburban as well in 2022. Now, he missed a tremendous amount of time. That last race has to be viewed as nothing more than a prep. Too short for him going a 1-turn mile, wired that day. Did he get enough fitness out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the real question. He certainly looked like he needed the race. And by the way, you can just go back through this horse's entire career. There's a reason why this horse never went short in his entire life after his career debut. There's also a reason, Dan, why he doesn't race at Belmont Park in New York. He races out of town, or he races at Saratoga and Aqueduct. He wants 2 turns, and he wants longer races, and he gets it here after a prep off the long layoff. I mean, it's a real question whether it was enough. But he fits right in here with his good race. He just needs the right trip. He could easily beat this field.
Certainly classy enough to win this race, gets the right setup. And again, the last race should be viewed as nothing more than a prep run off of a lengthy layoff. For him, a mile is a sharp sprint. Number 4 in here is up next. That's Hoist the Gold. And I bet Hoist the Gold in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And like John Velasquez and Dallas Stewart. I was a little confused by what was going on. He was just sort of in between horses, didn't really do much. And then he galloped out 20 lengths past the field. And supposedly John Velasquez told Dallas Stewart, run this horse in the Cigar Mile. He doesn't like dirt in his face. Send him to the top. And that's exactly what happened in the Cigar Mile. They were aggressive with Hoist the Gold. They also happened to catch a wet track where speed seemed to do very well.
Yeah, he had some advantages in here for sure. First of all, it is a great ride from Johnny V. Breaking from the outside on ascend from the start. He managed to make his way to the early lead in here, and he never looks back. He's obviously just running away from these horses through the stretch. I mean, it's obviously a career best performance from this horse. Your other point, though, I don't think should really go unnoticed, Dan. This was an intensely speed favoring track all day at Aqueduct. That's Senor Buscador put in a really nice run from out of it for a second. This horse ran great last time. He's a real question mark going this far, and he's also a real question mark if he takes pressure on the lead. And I don't see any way that he doesn't with National Treasure in here.
I think they have to send him again. The plan is, again, he doesn't like dirt in his face. Supposedly, we'll find out if that's true. But I think he's going to be on ascend in this race. The 1 1/8 is a question mark, as is the 2 turns. That's a huge question mark, the 1-turn mile of the Cigar Mile. But this horse is coming off a fast race, and it's not like it's his one and only fast race of his career. He's been a pretty solid sprinter for most of his career. Trademark is up next. He scored last time out in upset fashion in the Grade 2 Clark. He beat First Mission. He beat Illman. He goes out for a very underrated trainer in Victoria Oliver. I don't know about you, Mike. I didn't love the Clark last year. I guess First Mission is the horse that I would take out of it.
I might take the second and third finishers out of that race before I took Trademark. And I don't really want to knock this horse because he's actually pretty good. And he tends to get good trips in his races, and he should be a price in this race. So those are all positives for this horse, Dan. He ran fine in the Clark. He's not the horse I wanted out of that race. He was really bad in the Fayette 2 starts back. I know he was wide early in that race, but that was not a good performance. And I don't know, man, that Lucas Classic 3-back, he ran fine in there too, but I didn't really see his excuse. I like him as a horse. I just don't like him in this race.
4 horses have come out of the Clark thus far. None have hit the board in their next start. The best buyer only an 89. Senor Buscador is up next, the number 6. We saw him rally for second against the grain of the track in the Cigar Mile. His running style is always a concern. He's just this one-run closer. And on those hard tracks in Southern California, all things considered, I think he's had a pretty good career. Now he's at Gulfstream Park, another track where sometimes it's tough to close. But last time out, he was against the grain of the track. He might get a completely different scenario here.
He actually ran really well in the Cigar Mile last time because I mean, he got a good, closer's trip in out from the back, but he made up a lot of ground over a track that really wasn't playing to his advantage. He's a perfectly good horse like you, Dan. I just hate his running style, especially at Gulfstream Park. He's going to need some help if he's going to upset this race.
National Treasure, number 7, gate to wire in the Preakness, made the lead for the first time since the Preakness in this race, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And he almost holds off a very, 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 very good horse in Cody's Wish. It was a nice ride from Flavien Prat, who gave this horse a bit of a breather, and National Treasure just misses.
This is a really good performance. They wanted the lead with this horse. They sent him. He got it. And he really makes Cody's Wish work for this thing. And Cody's Wish got a pretty good trip at this race. He makes him fight all the way to the wire to get by. It's clearly the best race he's ever run. I know that he won the Preakness. The Preakness is probably my least favorite race that this horse has ever run in his career because his Santa Anita Derby before that, he did not get a good trip. His Belmont, I thought, was an underrated performance, going 1.5 miles. 2 wet tracks after that where he didn't make the lead. He ran great last time, Dan. I don't think he's a superstar, but he's got room to improve still. He makes the lead in here. He's super dangerous.
First Mission is the number 8. This horse is very lightly raced. There's always been a lot of buzz surrounding him, and why not? 5 starts, never been out of the exacta, just missed in the Clark last time out. But now it's time for him to live up to the hype a little bit. The Clark came back a slow race. We talked about it. I think with his tactical speed, he's supposed to pull a good trip in the second flight or so under Luis Saez.
I agree. I thought he ran well in the Clark last time. Maybe that's just not a strong race overall. He ran well in that race, though, just sort of securing the inside and then taking pressure on the lead the entire way. He finally shook off the pace pressure, and then Trademark came and nailed him on the way. This horse ran well last time. It's worth remembering that, shaped with tons of potential early on. This horse might have been the favorite in the Preakness had he made that race. He had to scratch either the day before or the morning of, and he missed time, but he's come back with 2 really good races since then.
Trademark ran his Clark in 149.95. The 9 grand Aspen won a first level allowance that same day in faster time, going a mile and an eighth. And then we saw him run a good second in the Harlan's Holiday when O'Connor snuck up the rail and beat him. He's obviously in good form right now. I think there are some class concerns. And I think with his running style, he kind of likes to be a little bit closer. He's going to be dealing with a faster pace than he's used to.
Yeah, this trip might not really work out for this horse. I sort of understand why Pletcher wants to take a shot in this race, though, Dan. He's obviously taken to dirt well in his last 3 starts. Good trips in those races, but he's run well in all of them. The figures put him close to being a contender in here. Maybe he can take another step forward. I'm not betting him in here. I understand why he's in the race.
Morocco's a pretty cool horse. He got beaten up last year as a 3-year-old in races like the Holy Bull and the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby and the Belmont. And people were starting to laugh at Morocco. Well, he's laughing last because he's come back and has hit the board in his last 5 races, including a graded stakes win at Parks, a third in the Pennsylvania Derby, and a third in the Clark. He's a lot better than people give him credit for. And at Gulfstream, he has run well in the past.
Yeah, all those things are true. It's a great way to look at him too, Dan. I like the way that you laid it out because early on in the year, it just didn't look like he classed up with the better 3-year-olds, but they stuck with it, and he just kept getting better and better with every start. By the end of the year, he was really competitive in some tough races. I thought he ran great in the Fayette. Maybe the difference in that race was just sort of being in tight. He got bumped by O'Connor at the top of the stretch, and then he's in between all the way down to the wire, and he just missed. You could argue that he was best that day. His Clark, I think, is underrated. He never got position in that race. He was racing on. It was too late. This horse is actually in really good form right now. I could easily use him somewhere.
The number 11 is Croupy for Frankie Dettori and Todd Pletcher. When this horse made his debut at Saratoga as a baby, you just had the feeling he was a horse that was going to do better with more distance and added maturity. And it just feels like he's at peak maturity right now. He's won 4 of his last 5 starts, including 2 stakes races at Aqueduct going a mile and an eighth. Here he is in the Queens County, Mike. He had his momentum stopped for a little bit earlier in this race, but this is his running style. He will stay all day long.
Yeah, he will. And that's how he wins this race too. He just stays because it looks like that horse too is outside there. Signator, who's actually pretty good, has all the momentum, but it's going to be Croupy who comes on late and gets the job done. You mentioned 3 of his last 4, Dan, are wins. They're all over this 9 furlong distance too. He wants every inch of this. He just needs a trip in this race.
Last horse in the body of the field is the 12 Skippy Longstocking. Last but certainly not least, he's already a millionaire in his career. He won the Charlestown Classic 2 starts back, a race where they just kind of handed it to him on the lead, and he was able to skip around those tight turns. But all things considered, we saw him run 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He was far from disgraced in that race, but National Treasure just ran better, and National Treasure outposts him here.
Yeah, this horse was on ascend also last time in the Breeders' Cup. He just couldn't quite make the lead, but man, he chased that pace in a fast pace the entire way. I thought it was a pretty good performance. It's unfortunate for these connections that he drew this post going this distance on this track because it really works against him. But if he can somehow work out a trip from post 12, I mean, he's not hard to make a case for in this race at all.
Castle Chaos is the also eligible. I thought he ran quite well to be 3rd in the Cigar Mile. Again, considering the way the track played, they tried to move early with him. He stayed on for 3rd over a wet track. But if he draws in, he would have the same problem as Skippy Longstocking. A very tough post position and stretching out in distance for him.
Yeah, he obviously got into good form for a really good young trainer towards the end of last year. I still don't like him in this race.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time, Saturday race of the day, Grade 1, $3 million, Pegasus World Cup. You've always been a big fan of Dynamic One. You got a race off the layoff. You got some pace in front of you. You got the distance you want, and you're going to get a price.
All those things are how I landed here, Dan. I think anyway, good enough to beat this field. He needs the right trip. If he gets it, I think he'll be right there. I'm glad he's got that prep off the layoff.
I'm a little concerned about his running style, but not the price he's going to be. I could certainly see him kicking on late. Hoist the Gold and National Treasure, I think, are going to be 1-2 going into the first turn, and maybe Hoist the Gold is just a new horse going to the lead. We'll see if National Treasure lets Hoist the Gold have it, figuring maybe Hoist the Gold won't stay the distance and National Treasure will outstay him. That could help Hoist the Gold. I think it'll be a decent price. 4-7-8-9 for me, 3-8-10-7 for Mike. Nice betting race. The Pegasus World Cup on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Best of luck.